Hi, welcome to Cryptid Wilderness Research. My name is Daniel Becker in Anchorage, Alaska. Joining me, as always, in Quincy, Washington, is co-host Matt Slater.
Hello.
And once again, back with us again, a man who needs no introduction in the municipality of Anchorage, the one, the only researcher at large, Paul Ayat.
Hello.
Welcome, Paul. Back with us tonight is Bigfoot researcher Robin Haynes for part 2 of our discussion. Robin, welcome. Thank you again for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me again. I'm excited to be back.
Thank you so much. Matt, why don't you take it away?
Well, last time in part 1 of the discussion, we started talking about Mindspeak, and I was wondering if we could expand on that maybe a little bit this time.
Sure.
When you are engaging in Mindspeak, what is that experience like personally?
Well, I think people need to first understand what it is. People automatically think for Mindspeak that it's just this booming voice that's in your head. And it can be. There are times that it will be, but it comes in much more different, a lot more ways than that, I guess is the best way to put it. It can be a thought, a feeling, an emotion, a sense of knowing. It can be letters spelled out in your mind. It can be pictures in your mind, something that plays as a video. You can walk in a room and just have a sense where you already know the entire situation. So,
Okay.
all of those things are a form of Mindspeak. Everybody gets it differently. Some people get all the way. Some people only get one way. It all comes from the same thing. So for me, and it's very subtle. That's the other thing. Now, I've had them where they get excited and they're yelling the words in your head or whatever, and you get it, really loud and boisterous. But most of the time, it's very subtle. And I think everybody's capable of Mindspeak. I think everybody's gotten it before, but we don't know to recognize it. And that's where that difference is. And if you don't know what it is, truly, then you have no way of knowing if you've gotten it. For me personally, because I do it every day, with so many different things.
Yeah.
It's just, for me, it's just as easy and just as common as me talking to you right now.
Okay.
It's a very relaxed, even flowed thing. I think I probably did it before I could talk. I never knew that people did not all do this. That was a shock to me. I think it feels very comforting to people. Feels very personal because you're talking about it's not being put out there vocally. It's happening to you internally. And it just feels like a very, very personal thing.
That's an insight. See, I was one of the folks that just always assumed it would be a direct verbalization.
Well, the term itself is very confusing. Telepathy term is confusing because you're automatically assuming with telepathy, if you look it up, the definition, it says, getting things in your mind or however it's worded, but it implies that you're just going to hear these words like God's talking to you in your mind. And yes, that can absolutely happen. I've had it where they've just put letters in my head and you piece all the letters together and you have the word of what they want. And when I get their names, I'm always telling them, spell it out for me, because sometimes it's hard to understand what they're saying. So all those things are all true, but it limits you as far as the term, it limits to you as far as your understanding of what all it can encompass. Mindspeak is a little bit more liberal with it, but not a lot, because they're still thinking it's words. And that's where people get confused. I teach Mindspeak classes. And people that's where the problem always lies, is they assume because of the way the words go that it's a certain way, and it's really not. And it's a very personal thing. I think people, don't realize how personal it is.
Yeah, I would imagine it is, like when an occurrence happens, it probably is very deeply personal.
Yeah.
So, Robin, when you first experienced this, can you refresh me on what your reaction was when you realized that these Sasquatch were actually talking to you and actually reaching out to communicate?
Well, for me, like I said, I was a very small child. It wasn't any different than hearing my mom talk to me. For me, because I don't remember a time that I didn't have it. You know, I guess if you were to get it later on in life, that would be perhaps a little bit different. And it would be like your come to Jesus moment, so to speak. For
Mhm.
me, that was my life. That's how my life played out. So I didn't know it was any different than hearing my mom talk. As I got older and I now am going, nobody else is getting this, but yet I am. Then it became more personal to me. Then I think it almost became, it went from being a real thing already to something much more special. You know, something special that was between them and myself. And it gave me such comfort because I knew they were always there, no matter where I was, no matter what I was doing. The other thing with Mindspeak, and people don't realize this either, it defies time and space. Okay. So distance doesn't matter. Like I did the conference in Russia and Siberia back in 2011 or 12. I still talk to the ones up there from Russia. You know, I've talked to ones in the UK for people. I talked to some in Africa for people. I mean, I've talked to them all over the place because they don't acknowledge it as space. When you're in it, the other thing about Mindspeak is when you're in a vehicle, when you're in a plane, I don't care if it's a boat, a bike, or whatever, and you're moving between time and space, it's much more easy to pick up. You tend to pick it up a lot more freely because you are moving through time and space, so it's harder for everything is telepathic, so everything is listening. It's like, you know, a newspaper service or a telegram service, and so everything can hear you. When you're moving through time and space, it takes much more effort for them to eavesdrop, so things want to talk more freely. And it seems to be, at least in my case and for other people that I've worked with, it seems to be a much easier way for them to communicate than when you're, like, per se, sitting at home at your desk or whatever. When I get even in a plane, you know, because I've been flying a lot lately for different places, and I get on that plane, and as soon as it takes off, and it's like, boom, everybody's talking at one time. And it's much clearer, it's easier. If I'm in the car going down the road, I get bashed with the same thing. You know, I drive down the road, and the ones that are in the woods that I'm driving by, they're talking 90 miles an hour. For anybody that's ever ridden with me, they know it's not that unusual for me to just stop the car, pull off on the side of the road, get out, and just walk into the woods randomly. Because if I get some that'll say, you know, will you come in the woods? Will you bless this ground? Will you do this? Will you do that? And if it feels like it's a positive energy, because I read energy signatures, then I'll go ahead and do it. If it doesn't feel the way it should, then I won't. So, you know, there are things that make it easier, and the moving in between time and space actually does help.
So can you tell us about an instance where you actually heard from an aggressive Sasquatch? You know, we've identified that there are those aggressive Sasquatch out there. Can you tell us about a time when you heard from an aggressive one?
And this wasn't super aggressive. He was just pissed. You know, I was with a friend of mine. We were driving down a dirt road by my house, and there was this huge forest there. And there was a male. He was black, long hair, shaggy. Wasn't overly heavy built. He was very tall, but he was more, you know, leaner. He was walking along the tree line. He was out in the open. He wasn't cloaked. He was in, you know, in flesh and blood, and he's walking along the tree line. So I said to my friend, I said, stop, look at over there. He's right there. So we stopped, and he immediately, just like in my head, this booming voice, stopped looking at me. And I said, what? And he said, stop looking at me. I said, then cover your butt up, like cloak, shimmer, do whatever you got to do, or stay in the tree line. If you don't want me to look at you, you know, don't leave your hairy butt out where I can see you. But he was pissed. Like, he was super, super mad. He was mad. And I've gone in places before where there were some that were not so nice. I had an incident in Texas, down in the lower part of Texas by the coast. And I was in a research field several years ago. And he was very aggressive. He was more interested in the kids that I had that were with me. And he wanted me to leave the kids. And I wasn't obviously going to do that. And I told him, no, I refuse to. And he's trying to kill me. Like, he did the wall of fear. I never got zapped. I've never been zapped, knock on wood. my day's coming, I'm sure, because we all get it eventually. But so far in my lifetime, I've not gotten zapped yet. And he was very aggressive. You know, he was threatening to kill me. I'm going to run you out of here. And I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that there were children involved, it might have, made me behave differently. But I'm a mom first. And these were not even my children. But, you go into that mom protective mode. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
So I'm like standing my ground. In fact, I walked towards him, which really pissed him off. And the kids, I was trying to get them back to the vehicle, and he bluff charged me. And he's screaming in my head the whole time, like really, really loud. And he bluff charged me. And he ran so close. I was standing next to a palmetto bush. It leveled the palmetto bush to the ground. And that thing was waist high. And it blew the hair right back off my shoulder because he was so close. And then he circled around and swerved around and went right back into the woods again. So yeah, and it was all done through Mindspeak. He wasn't yelling out verbally. It was all done through Mindspeak. I had another one that, threatened to kill me if I didn't leave the area, and I was there for a specific reason that the good Sasquatch had sent me for. So obviously I wasn't going to leave, and I stood my ground, but, was I stupid? Probably. But it worked. Thankfully, it worked out okay.
So, with the aggressive Sasquatch and the potential, the anger and the emotion coming through the Mindspeak, does that lend itself to a stronger connection through Mindspeak? With there more emotion?
Yeah, I don't think it's a stronger connection, but it's definitely more emotionally charged. Even though it's through Mindspeak, whether it's via feeling or however you're getting it, that sense of knowing. And, when you get these things, it's a sense of knowing of something, anything that is not your own thought. You didn't know it before, why do you know it now? Well, you know it because somebody talked to you and told you. But it is. It's just, it's not anymore. For the word I'm looking for here, it's not any more powerful than it would be if they said it verbally. You're still going to feel that emotion. You're still going to feel that intensity. And, we need to understand, first of all, that these are a type of people. They really are. I know a lot of people think they're flesh and blood or they're an animal or whatever. And, that's great. Believe what you need to believe. The reality of it is, and this comes from what they've told me, as well as the DNA study, as they are a type of people. They are a human hybrid. Anybody that works with them long enough, has enough contact with them, you're going to know that without needing a DNA study. They have language. They can read and write. They have their own alphabet. They have their own culture. They have their own laws. They have their own family. Just like we do. It's just different from ours. That's all it is. They're people, but they're not our people. Clearly, they're not our people. And so they have a higher frequency and a higher energy. That's what they're made. They're made that way. That's why, you find people that have had encounters with them. The energy that they radiate is a much higher frequency, and it's almost like a type of a radiation, whether it's a live body or one that's passed. If you have one of those little, was it Geiger counters or whatever they call it, you're going to pick up radiation. You absolutely are. And there's, you're going to find radiation residue. It's just because that's what their body chemistry is. So they're a higher frequency and a higher energy. And because they are, their emotions run higher and deeper. They love harder than we will ever love. And love from them, what we feel as far as love, can't even compare to what they have. They will do what they, what I call the love bomb, where they project emotions on you. And they're going to project that love on you. And I've yet to find anybody that could get that and not want to cry, because it's that intense, it's that raw, and it is that deep. And we can't compare to it because we don't have that high of a frequency. And our energy isn't as high. But in that same regards, that's their feelings when they're mad. They love deeper, but they hate deeper, and they get pissed off a lot deeper. So when you pick up those emotions through Mindspeak or verbally, it's that much more intense. That intensity is going to be there. Mindspeak is not going to dull the intensity of the emotion. It's just a different avenue for you to get the information.
Okay.
That's interesting. You guys don't mind if I jump in here and ask a question? You had mentioned earlier that one was interested in the kids. Uh, you hear about stories, people disappearing in the forest, in the wilderness, so and so, and hiking, this, that, and the other. Now, I wasn't familiar with the interdimensional thing, so I looked up. I said, "Well, I'm familiar with it, so I'm going to do a little research in something called the Einstein-Rosen bridge." It's an equation that says wormholes are possible. So I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" So, so I had, if that one was interested in the kids, what would they do to the kids? What happens to these missing people? Are they taken to the different realm, or are they eaten?
Well, it depends on the individual. These are all individuals. Now, I think it's important to note that our people also have kidnappers and pedophiles and all of these things. These are a type of people. Will every one of them steal your child? No. Okay. But there are bad ones and there are good ones. And I think that it's very important that everybody out there realize that they are predominantly good, but there are bad ones. Just like with our people, there's good and bad. There's free will. I mean, that's the universal law, is free will. So they choose, which way they're going to go on that. That being said, they absolutely could pull them into a portal. Okay. They, keep them in the physical world. I will say this: when they cloak, and they cloak because they bend the light. That's literally how they do it. They raise their frequency, they raise their energy, and they vibrate so quickly it bends the light and you don't see it. And I always tell everybody, compare that to a hummingbird. If you watch a hummingbird, you always see the body, you don't see the wings when they're in the air. You can't see the wings because they vibrate too fast. And it's basically the same, I mean, similar to the same principle, obviously not exactly the same, but the same kind of thing. They are the ones that told me what they do. I asked them how they do it, and they said, we bend the light. Now, when they do the shimmer, that looks like the gelled figure from Predator. They're just not vibrating it as quickly, and they change their energy, and that's what they do. But my point is when they are in that cloaking situation, if they walked up to you or a child or whatever they wanted to touch, put their hand on it and go into cloaking, that thing that they are touching will be cloaked as well.
Wow.
So you get a lot of these missing 411 missing people cases. And, for the record, not all of them are done by Sasquatch. Sasquatch and Dogmen are the least of the problems that are out there that can do more danger than they are. But there are some that are. I mean, I'm going to be realistic and tell you absolutely that can happen. But the thing of it is all they have to do is get close enough to touch it. And that's it. I mean, it's all cloaked. I've watched them go up to my cat and cloak with my cat. I've watched my dogs go into portals and you completely vanish. And there is a time that I actually, because I am psychic and I do get visions and I do get premonitions that, 9 out of 10 times, if not more than that, will happen. And they've shown me. I had one that got hold of me and said, listen, you have to stop this. And I said, what? And they said, one of the bad of our people are trying to steal a child. And I said, okay. So they showed it to me. And he had this blonde-haired little boy on his hip and went into a portal with it and it disappeared. And the next day in the newspaper, this kid was missing. It looked exactly like what I saw in the vision. How do you can't tell anybody that because they're not going to believe you. And how are they going to get it back? I think I spent weeks and weeks and weeks begging and pleading with somebody to go get this kid. And I think they eventually found him like 2 or 3 months later, in this really weird place. And it wasn't anywhere nearby where the portal was. How did this small child that looked like about 3 or 4 years old get to that place? It just defies logic, And so, like I said, with the 411, you have to understand, why do they take them? Okay. Some are just bad. We have pedophiles, and we have kidnappers that just do it because there's something wrong with them mentally and they just do it. Yeah. But the other reasons are pretty clear. You have females who have lost a child or the child has died or whatever. They've lost that baby and they're grieving. And the males will literally go and try to grab a child to make them feel better and replace that child. They don't kill those children. They die of elements. Our bodies are not made to live outside. and they are not made to eat raw food. You know, now some cases, some of them actually cook food. They will use it over an open fire. I've watched it. But most of them, you know, don't. So there's that. Other times in their culture, okay, we let our kids now go outside, play in the yard, and we may be in the house, we're making them lunch or we're, you know, doing dishes, whatever, but we can see them out the window. So they're in our eyesight and we feel that they're safe. And they probably are. That's not a slam on any parents. But in their culture, that's entirely different. To see a child out there by themselves in their world means they're without a clan. They don't allow that with their kids. That's not how that works. So when they see them out there, they're excessively maternal, both the males and the females, excessively, much more so even than we are. And we're pretty tough when it comes to our kids. We don't let anything mess with our kids. They are even more so. And so they see one outside and there's not a parent standing right there. They think that they're helping. They don't think that in their mind they're not hurting, they're helping. Because this is a child without a clan. This is a child that needs cared for. Doesn't matter that we're in the house watching out the window or we're hanging clothes up on a clothesline and the kid is, you know, 60, 70 feet away. If they don't think that child's being taken care of, if they don't think it's being watched, they're going to take care of it. But in the same respect, there's countless cases where they found these missing kids and they brought them back. You know, they've literally returned them and tried to get them back home. So it's not all for evil ways, is my point. Is there some that do it for evil ways? Of course. Like I said, we have it with our people too.
Yeah. If I could interrupt you just for a second, Paul, we're having some camera issues on your side of the house. Your face keeps disappearing and going up, so you might want to adjust your camera a little bit.
Oh, sure.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. Continue.
No, you're fine. I was just saying, you know, it doesn't mean that I agree with it. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm simply giving explanations on their side of it. You know, and the other thing, and this used to be a rule in my home. We already know that they can absolutely be attacked by the cat. They absolutely can imitate any noise they want to. A voice, a noise, anything, they have the ability to imitate it. And they can imitate your voice so it sounds exactly like you. And that has been proven to me so many times, it's not even funny. My ex-husband was out in the woods one day and I was in the house. I never left the house. I was inside with the kids and he was out deer hunting in our back acreage. We had 10 acres at the time. And he came in just absolutely madder than hell at me. And I was like, what is wrong with you? He's like, thanks a lot for going out there and talking to me in the woods and scaring the deer away. And I said, what are you talking about? I mean, I never left the house. He said, I've known you for 15 years. I know what your voice is. I said, well, apparently you don't because I never left the house. And the kid said, Dad, Mom's been in the kitchen the whole time. She hasn't gone anywhere. So that's when we figured out that, you know, not only were they imitating the animal noises and some of the vehicle noises and, you know, alarms and various things, the vocals that they were imitating from us were much more correct than what we gave them credit for. So the rule in my home immediately became, I don't care if I'm outside and you hear mom calling you or dad calling you or a sibling or anybody calling you, I don't care who it is, calls you and you don't physically see them. You just hear them and they tell you to come. I don't care where. I don't care if it's in the garage or the woods or wherever, unless you physically see that person with your own eyes, you never, ever go. Now, I never had a problem with them with my children. They were wonderful with my kids. They played with my grandkids. My daughter would toss her soccer ball in the woods and they'd toss it back out. My 5-year-old granddaughter was out playing in the sand and they had come up in the tree line and she was only about 5-6 feet from the tree line. And I usually kept them away from the tree line, but that's where she had wandered over to. And they would roll little tiny rocks to her and she would roll it back. They'd roll it to her, they'd roll it back. So I was very blessed. They were very good to my kids. But as a parent, I don't trust anybody with my kids. I'm the same way with my grandkids. You know, I don't care who you are, what you are. These are my babies. So, you know, you don't trust anybody with your babies. So we had protocols in my house. You know, you don't go into the woods unless you see somebody. If you see me, then that's fine. But if you don't physically see me, you don't go anywhere. I don't care who calls you. You have to have a visual on that person or you don't go. Nobody's going to get grounded. Nobody's going to get in trouble for not responding and not doing what you're told, because the house rules are you just don't do it unless you see a physical person. You know, and that worked for me. I mean, that worked for my kids. I never had them ever try to do anything with my kids. They were very good to my kids. They're very helpful. When the kids would go outside, my daughter, you know, would play her clarinet, and they were out there. As soon as they heard the music, they'd come running and they'd stand on the tree line and watch her, and they loved it. You know, my kids, the boys would play basketball, and the ball would go flying, and every now and then the ball would get tossed back to them. So I was very blessed, but it's not like that everywhere, because again, like our people, some are bad. You know, and it's so important that people understand they are not all good, but they sure as hell aren't all bad. There's more good than there is bad. I think in Alaska, you tend to find a little bit more of the crabbier ones, but that's because you have so much open land. They are not forced to be civilized. They are not forced to deal with us unless they choose to. Now, I've worked with some that are in Alaska through Mindspeak that have been both very kind and excessively aggressive, totally aggressive. But they seem to be the ones that are in more of the open space where they don't have to deal with us, and they're more uncivilized. That's the best word I can use for it, because it's not that they're, you know, horrifically bad. Some of them are. The nasty ones there, oh my God. But there are good ones in there. There are pockets of good ones in there, and they are the ones that seem to be closer to the cities.
Well, that's amazing. You know, like Paul, you had mentioned about missing people, and we've all heard these stories about children disappearing and then being found later and describing what they thought was a bear taking care of them in the nighttime. And yeah, there's been some amazing stories.
So, you know, the protocol that you do in the woods, you know, you have to really have it thought out before you take your kids in the woods. My kids were always in front of me. I never let my kids follow me to the woods. I can't see what's coming up behind me. And it's very easy for something to walk up and put a cloaked hand on a child and instantly cloak that child. And when they do it, they do what's called trancing. So the child isn't going to scream. It's not going to cry. It's not going to do anything. It's not being hurt. It just puts it in this meditative state where they're very calm. Their brain's still functioning, but their body doesn't react. The ETs do the same thing. And so if they're behind you, how can you adequately know that something's not going to go out and put hands on? Not that it can't happen in front of you, but you have a better chance of being able to counteract it. And again, you know, trust your instincts, feel that energy. If something feels off, it probably is. Nothing says you have to be in that spot. If something doesn't feel quite right, that's your cue, because everything with them is so subtle. That is your cue to back off, walk away, come back another day. Just come back later.
I think that's good advice for when you're in the woods. That's pretty sound. Keep your head on a swivel. Keep the important stuff in front.
Yeah, it served me well.
So last time we had talked actually offline about government involvement in Sasquatch, the Sasquatch phenomenon. So we were curious if you could tell us, based on what you know, based on your contacts and what you've heard, what you've experienced, if you could tell us about government involvement, the reality of military strike teams that have been sent after allegedly aggressive Sasquatch. If we could get into that area, and you can tell us what you know about that.
I mean, I can tell you my experience. You know, do I have anything to back it up? I don't have proof. I don't have paperwork from the government admitting to anything or anything like that. Number one, before I even start, I do want to say this. When I say the government, I want people to know when the military gets brought up, this is nothing against soldiers. Okay. Our military soldiers, I have the utmost respect for and admiration and gratitude for, They fight for us. Their families, I think, are we need to be every bit as grateful for, because they sacrifice time with their family and their loved ones so that we can be protected. And then our soldiers are out there putting their lives on the line every day. So please, anybody out there, know that this is nothing against them, because they are not brought into this part of the
Absolutely.
government.
Yeah,
Okay, I just wanted to put that out there, because I hate to offend anybody. I mean, my dad was military. My kids have been in the military. I know countless people that are. I feel nothing but love and respect for them. So I just want to always tell people out front so that they don't take that in an unintended way.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely. All of us are in full agreement.
Yeah, the lower levels of the government is where the problem lies. You know, that everybody talks about the shadow government and galactic federations and all these things. And all these lower levels of government, that's where the issue is. And you have all these secret programs that the public is not made aware of. You know, they buy thousands of acres of land. There's underground bunkers that they capture these cryptids in, and they're held hostage for genetic testing, for hybridization. You know, they want to know what their abilities are and how can they access them. Well, guess what? When you kill them, you can't access them. It's that simple. And they're not going to tell you how to access their abilities. It's just not going to happen, because you can't anyway, because we are not at the frequency and energy level that they are. So, and I'm sure they've learned a lot from them, but you also have sectors of the government that literally have divisions that are created to locate and kill cryptids. And they tell these innocent soldiers that work in that department, and I don't blame them at all, just so everybody knows. I do not blame the soldiers. I blame the powers that be in charge of them. They tell them that they're going into these areas because the cryptids are killing civilians. Okay. And so you're telling military personnel whose entire mission in life is to protect and serve, to go in, and our people are being killed. So these things have to be killed. And they're going to go in there and they're going to do their damnedest to kill them, because they are doing what they've been taught to do. They're protecting and they're serving. So the blame is not on them to
Right.
begin with. Okay. They've been lied to as bad as we have. And then you get in there, and I'm not saying that there aren't some cases where there are bad things there. There are, absolutely. But there's also just as many cases where these beings are doing nothing except existing, because the government doesn't want them out there, and they go in and they annihilate them just because they can locate them. And that's just not okay. I'm sorry. It's just not. Murder's murder. And I don't care if it's an animal or what it is, it's still murder. And these are a type of people. And nobody is accountable for what they're doing. You know, and that is very sad to me. Very sad. And there is not anybody that has been around these things for any length of time and done any type of study on. And I'm not a researcher, I'm an experiencer. Okay. I've never tried to be a researcher. I was born into this. They found me. I never, went looking for them. They found me, and I've been very blessed that they've chosen to share their life with me. I'm not quite sure why, but that it is what it is. I'm grateful for it. I wouldn't want it any other way. I feel blessed and honored every day. And I have been threatened. I've had death threats. I've had attempts on, to kidnap me, to hurt me, to maim me, whatever you want to say. I've had these ET looking things come to my door. And these are with witnesses. It's not just, Robin's crazy and she's coming up with all this stuff. There were witnesses to all of these events. And for what? Because I've learned from them, because they've educated me, because they've taught me. I wish all of us had the experiences I've had. But the truth of the matter is, they're real. And, the government doesn't want them for a multitude of reasons. And what the reasons that I know of are probably just baby reasons compared to what's really out there in the dark, deep truth. But when it comes to, and money and greed comes down to everything, the national parks, these things are all over in. And quite honestly, Bigfoot and dogmen, those are the minor things that can hurt you in the state parks. There's a lot worse stuff out there that is being kept under wraps. But they can't protect us from this. They really can't. Even, sending their SWAT teams in there to kill them all off, they really can't protect us. You're talking about things that have abilities that we cannot match. The size and strength that they have, we cannot match. And, as far as can we kill them? I won't even talk to anybody about it because anything that I know, I would never let be used against them. Ever. I've been protecting them my whole life. I will probably be doing it the rest of my life. But that doesn't mean that I will help the bad ones either. The bad ones need to be accountable, just like our people. But I will always protect the good ones with everything I am. But at the same time, if you are dumb enough, and I say dumb enough to try to bring one down, if you can even do it, because it's not as easy as people think. You know, I know Justin Smeja did it, you know, karma will deal with that. But the thing of it is if there's that one there, they work on a collective consciousness. So it literally takes a millisecond for the rest of them to know what's happened. And if you can get out of there alive afterwards, God bless. Because then if you do, you're marked. You're marked for life. And they believe in an eye for an eye. They're not going to let it go. They will sit and wait until the cows come home, until they think it's the right time, but they do get back at it, you know. But the fact of the matter is, why is it okay for us to kill them and they're part human? But yet it's, you know, we're not supposed to kill each other. Of course we do, but we're not supposed to. You know, I mean, it's just beyond me. Our people kill what they don't understand. And that's the bottom line. They don't understand it, so it must be killed because we have to be the almighty. We have to be the most powerful thing out there. Rather than learn to live copacetically with them, learn their culture, learn their ways so that we can share this planet. Everybody wants to, you know, not everybody, because there's a lot of really great people out there that will try to protect them, and I appreciate that. But you have people that want to take them out for that reason. And it's just, it's ridiculous. Just because we don't understand something doesn't give us the God-given right to kill it. If you can even take one down, again, you know, has it ever happened? Obviously, we know it has. But it's few and far between. And, you know, if you can get out of there in one piece, you're going to get caught at some time because they don't let it go. They just don't. And they will take it not only to you, but they will take it through your family members because you've taken one of their family members away from them. And they do bury their dead. Everybody's like, well, why isn't there any bodies? Number one, the decomposition rate in the forest is huge. But they don't just let them sit there and decompose. That's not even going to happen. They do bury them, and they bury them a certain way toward, you know, that leans more towards the Native American traditions. They do observe 3 to 4 days of silence to honor the ones that have passed. They do have their own kind of a funeral type thing that they're going to do. But they definitely bury them. And the graves, once you know what to look for, you can find the graves, but it's not all that easy. You can suspect that you found it, but that doesn't mean you have.
That's interesting. Real quick question. You were talking about the graves. I know it's a simple question, but how long do they live? Does it vary between north, south, east, west?
No, they can live anywhere from 200 to 400 years of age. The ones that, what I've noticed, and this is observation, there's nothing I can say that, you know, I mean, as far as to prove it, paperwork or anything. But I've noticed with the ones that I've encountered and worked with is the ones that use more of the paranormal abilities and are traveling between the portal systems seem to live longer. And I think it's because the energy and the frequency in that portal is so intense. Okay, look at the med beds. Okay, we have med beds that are coming out now. Those are all done with light, frequency, and energy. Those portals are made out of light, frequency, and energy. So, you know, if you're safer, when COVID hit, I was so worried about them because of the human lineage in it. And I kept asking them, and what they told me was the ones that go in the portals more probably won't get it. The ones that stay in a physical form more are the ones that were susceptible, and they did. Some of them got it. So the ones that are staying in a physical form, you can see them die off between 60 to 80 to 100 years old. But the ones that use those abilities because they have the higher frequency and the higher energy, they're going to live 200 to 400 years easy. And then, you know, you have some of the ancient ones and stuff that are 800 years old. And, you know, it just depends on what they can do.
Wow.
Definitely are going to outlive us. For sure.
Yeah.
So, cave systems. I wanted to ask you about cave systems.
Okay.
A lot of what I've heard about the cave systems has been more focused on the Appalachian areas and not so much in the West. Is that accurate, or are they just as accurate? I'm sorry, go ahead.
In my opinion, I don't think it is accurate because they will use all the caves. I think the Appalachians, and I'm not familiar. I'm terrible at this kind of stuff. The Appalachians, they have some really deep-seated caves in there. And, they've got tunnels in them and they're going through. So they're going to use those. They're going to run those tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
They can take that whole tunnel system and go anywhere. The ETs also in the Appalachians, just by coincidence, they have a very big stronghold in the Appalachians, and they get in the cave systems as well. But they will use the cave systems. They are, they're not, it's not like they're subterranean, but they're going to use them just like you would a house. And if they can move through the tunnels and stay out of sight, they're going to do so. They need to be outside. They need to get in the sunlight and all of those things. So they're not going to stay down in those tunnels for long, but they will use them for housing. They will use them to move from one place to the other and not be seen. But I think when you get out west, and I don't know this because that is not my forte at all. I don't know how their cave systems work in there, if there's a lot of tunnels or not. I mean, it might be just there's caves, but I don't know what the tunnel systems would be like out west. So that might have something different on them. But if they can get a cave, they're going to use those caves. I don't care where it's at. It's shelter, it's sturdy, it's, rock, and they can get way up in there. And generally, if you're in an area with caves, you're up in the mountains, which means you're away from us. And it's winterized. I mean, it's waterproof. It's everything that they need right there. And they will make fire. Certain clans won't. It depends on what that clan is allowed to do. But they'll use older pieces of wood so it smokes less.
Now, are they generally active all year? Do they have any migratory routes?
Yeah,
Any types of hibernation at all?
No, they do not hibernate. They do not migrate. And there's such a huge debate over it. And I've personally asked them myself, and they get very irate. We're not an animal. We don't migrate. That doesn't mean that they don't go visit other family members. You go to Aunt Sally's on Easter, or wherever your family is, you're going to go and you're going to go visit on Easter, or maybe for spring break or summertime vacation or whatever. Will they take their families and go visit families in outside places? Absolutely, 100%. That's not migration. That's going to visit family. We don't migrate. We go to visit family. They do the same thing. You can have some that will have maybe 2 places that they stay in because they don't want to deplete the food source in one area, so they'll go stay at the other. Normally, what's more common is if that food source gets low, the clan will stay there, but they'll send the hunters in the clan because everybody has a job, and they'll send them out to where the food sources are at, and they'll be gone for a predisposed amount of time and bring food back for everybody else. But they actually do not migrate. I've asked so many clans, do you migrate, only to get yelled at because I asked it. And I'm like, I already know the answer. I'm just trying to confirm it because people are fighting over it. They do not migrate. They are not nocturnal. They do not migrate. They are not Nephilim by any means. You want to piss one of them off, tell them that they're a Nephilim. You're going to see things you don't ever want to see. And they are not these things. They don't have a migratory path. You see at Pikes Peak, they always see them following the elk herds up the mountains, and people are like, oh, they're migrating. No, they're not. They're going where dinner is. You get the same line at McDonald's and Taco Bell. That doesn't mean you're migrating there. It just means you're going to get food. They are a people. And one thing that they won't put out on every show I'm on, they are not monsters. For the love of God, people, quit calling them monsters. We are more monsters than they will ever hope to be. We do more bad things than they will ever do. They are not monsters. They are a people. They are a type of people, not our people, but they are a people. Okay. They, in their own words, they are not Nephilim. They are not monsters. You know, they're not nocturnal. Are they around at night? Well, yeah, but people are busy during the day and we're in and out. You don't realize how much they're out and active during the day. They're very active during the day. They may go out at night only because a lot of prey that they would want is more active at night. They'll still snag a deer during the day, 100%. But a lot of things that they want to catch to eat are active at night. And the one thing that's not out there at night is us. So of course they're going to want to go out at night so they don't have to deal with us because we irritate the crap out of them on any given day. But I've had more encounters during the day. I mean, I've had them walk right up to me in the yard and get within 10 feet of me. I had a female that brought me her baby to show me the baby. Which, if anybody's out there and you actually see one of the kids, you do not make any effort to ever touch them, go near them, or do anything. They make all the decisions because if they think you're even going to make an attempt and they have not given you permission to do so, you do not want to be on the receiving end of that. Because they take being parents and being maternal to a whole new level. And they don't play games with babies or kids of any kind.
Definitely. So when it comes to the physical field research or observations that people might want to try and do, I've asked this question to other folks, and I'm pretty sure that they are able to, but a lot of people will try and set up cameras, like remote cameras, trail cameras, things like that, and the general consensus that I've been able to get is that they can see infrared. Well, we cannot, but that a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch, can see into that spectral range. Is that your feeling about that as well?
Well, I have to agree with that, but there's another part of it as well. These things are like or not heat, but energy-seeking missiles. Okay? When you have these cameras, they're digital.
Yeah.
And they can pick up on that so fast. So fast. It's like security cameras. They can read it. It's not just the infrared. They can pick up that. I believe that they can because they can see things we can't. How can they see that? Because their frequency is higher than us. When you have a higher frequency, that's makes it easier for you to see things. That's why certain people will look at a picture and say, I can see 3 of them standing right there. Another person looking at the same photo will say, I don't see anything. It's all pareidolia. And it may be pareidolia, but it also is because people are of different frequencies. The higher the frequency, it changes your vision and it changes how you be able to perceive things. And you can see more in there with the higher frequency opposed to someone with a lower frequency. Okay, so there's that. When it comes to the cameras, they can detect anything electronic. There's nobody on planet Earth that can do more with electronics than these cryptids. I mean, it is just astronomical. They can sense it. I had somebody that had sent me a game camera and said, oh, put it out. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I put it out and I went out the next morning. It was buried with brush. They just completely covered it with brush, And I mean, I did get one picture snapped and it was the breast of a female and a thumb. And I got that, whatever. I've never been one that, I've got a lot of photos. I've got some great UFO videos and ET pictures and, lizard man and that kind of thing and portals, but I never was really into, I had to have that physical proof because I was living it. I was living it every day. I didn't start trying to get the physical proof until I met Igor Borstov, and he's like, oh, we must have pictures. We must have this. We must have that. And so I did get them then. I'll go months at a time and never try to get a picture of them when they're running around the backyard. I just don't. And it's not that it's not real. It's not that I'm trying to do anything. I just don't care because people don't believe it anyway. They're still fighting over the Patterson-Gimlin film, and look at how clear that is. Yeah. And that was a legit film. So, I try to get pictures, but if the pictures that I do have, I get for my own enjoyment. Daniel, I think I sent you several of mine. You've seen my stuff before.
Oh yeah, you have absolutely excellent. Excellent pictures.
And I think I showed you the one with the UFO and the open portal with the head coming out of it. Yeah. So
you have some amazing photographic evidence. Definitely.
I'm really pleased with it. I've been very, very lucky. The other thing is, if you really want to get pictures of them, You guys, everybody goes about it the wrong way. The thing is get them when they're close. Really, go outside, stand in your yard, turn around in a circle, and just click your little cameras and do it. Because what happens is, if they're around, they're going to pop on your on the film. Two things: you never want to have them in the center of the camera lens, because that's how they can distort it. Two, it's always going to be distorted because of their high frequency and energy level. And so they can mess with the digital cameras. And three, if you get a picture of them while they're close, what happens is they're so busy raising that frequency and energy to cloak, it shows up on your camera. You can get them clear as day. So, that's the trick to getting them. So random pictures, people. That's how you do it. Random pictures.
Keep that in mind. Random photos.
Yeah, fascinating.
So, turning our attention just for a few minutes to the Patterson Gimlin film, you, given your unique perspective on the Sasquatch phenomenon, what's your take on the Patterson Gimlin film? What's going on there that we haven't heard? What's your analysis of that?
100% real. I think that there is some truth. I mean, what they've shared with me doesn't match what has always been put out there. Like, I just simply asked them. But do I think, there's been so much said, were there other ones there? Were there not other ones there? In my opinion, for whatever it's worth, absolutely there were other ones there. I have nothing but respect for Bob Gimlin.
Absolutely.
I absolutely adore the man. I think he has a lot of integrity. I will never say anything bad against Bob. I won't. That being said, she was not the only one there. There was a lot that went on. There was a lot that led up to it. Whether or not Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson knew about what was leading up to it, I wasn't them. I wasn't there. I'm not going to speak on that because I was not in that situation. And it would be unfair for me to make a judgment call on them when I wasn't a part of it. I'm going by what the Sasquatch told me went on that day. There were other ones there. I don't believe for 1 second that, she was the only one. And do I think other ones got killed? I actually do. And again, I'm not saying Bob or Roger knew anything about that because I was not there. I'm not going to sit there and say that they knew or they didn't when I was not part of the situation. I'm going strictly by what Sasquatch tells me. And yeah, there was, but there was a lot of things that were going on leading up to that I don't believe that Roger and Bob were involved with or had knowledge of as well, as far as the activity that was going on there and the Canadian logging crews and those kind of things. So yeah, but it's as legit as it gets. And I think people should be grateful that we can have that footage instead of spending all their time attacking a man that's a beautiful human being and has never bothered anybody a day in his life. And if he does know more than what he's saying, there's a damn good reason to be quiet. No, and I'm not saying he does. Okay, just for the record, I'm not saying that he does. But from somebody that's tried, the government has threatened and done different things with, I'm going to tell you something. I've had my brakes cut. I've had lug nuts taken out of my car. I've had ET things on my door. I've had my bank accounts frozen. I've had death threats. So from somebody that's already gone through that, and that is minor compared to what most people go through, if he's not saying anything, there's a damn good reason we need to leave it alone. And I'm not stating that he is.
Right. Bob Gimlin is a fine gentleman. He's like this great American cowboy, just a good, authentic, genuine individual. And he's got nothing but respect for myself and my partners here. Great man.
Yeah, I will never say anything bad about Bob. Like I said, what Bob knows and what Bob doesn't know is between Bob and God. It's none of our damn business. The man came forward. He brought out this footage. Let's be grateful that we were able to see it because it started this whole revolution where people believed that they existed and knew they existed. And keep our damn noses out of what isn't our business. The man did us a service by even bringing forth this footage, both him and Roger. And quit, dog, sorry. And we need to be grateful for the fact that we even have that. We wouldn't have that if it wasn't for him and Roger. And I think, you know, running around and constantly going at him, it's counterproductive to begin with. The film is what it is. It's 100% legit. Igor Borisov did a study on it to make sure the movement and everything matched. I mean, it's been proven over and over again. MK Davis has done studies on it. Everybody has picked that film apart. For the love of God, enjoy it. Cherish it. Be grateful that we have it and get off everybody's butt. I mean, that really, I hate to sound harsh, but the truth of the matter is this field of research are vipers that do nothing more than attack each other. We need to learn from each other. This thing, there's no experts, and I know people think that they are. There are no experts. I know I sure as hell don't claim to be. Okay, this is a 5 million piece puzzle, and you can have all the pieces in your basket except one, and you got nothing. You don't have any more than that person that has that other piece. And unless we all come together as a community and actually listen and learn, everybody's experiences are different. Your experience is going to be different from somebody else's. These are individuals. Okay, everybody has the same experience. Each one of these beings and people are going to have a different experience. They're as diverse as we are. They have different personalities, they have different looks, they have different shapes, they have different builds, they have different likes and dislikes. So we need all that information from everybody. We should be coming together and not ripping each other apart.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. Like, I don't even engage in it. You know, I just look at it that love me, hate me. I don't care. I mean, and I don't mean that in a bad way. But, you know, whoever doesn't want to believe me, I'm not going to change their mind. I don't even want to waste my time and energy trying. I'm happy to answer questions. Daniel, you know me. I'm always happy to answer questions. And I'm always honest with what I know. And I can tell you what I know. I can't tell you what I don't know. But at the same time, we all need each other in it. Nobody knows it all. You know, work together, try to learn from it. And maybe you can find out more than what you knew before. They're never going to give us all the information, because if it does, it would lead to their extinction. So they're not going to tell us everything. Get it in your head, people. It's not going to happen. Yeah. But, you know, we could have such a great sense of community and respect for each other. We don't have to agree. You know, and that old saying, if you don't like what's being said, just don't say anything. Walk away. Don't argue on a post. If you don't like what's being said, nobody's forcing you to be there. Simply get up and go to another post. There's a million of them on Facebook. You know, you don't have to agree with somebody, but you can choose the road of respect or disrespect. That's your free will. That's your choice. And I just, you know, like I said, I don't argue with people. I don't get upset if they don't believe me, because my experiences are mine. And they may not have had those experiences yet. And until you have that come to Jesus moment and you have those experiences, it's very difficult to believe all these things, because they're so out there and out of our normal comfort zone. So I don't take offense to it. You know, I mean, if people get upset and they don't believe it, that's all right. But while they're not believing it, I'm going to be outside in my backyard and I'm going to be interacting with them and the Sasquatch. So that's okay. You don't have to believe me, because God knows I'm not lying about it. I know I'm not lying about it. I've got the photos to prove it, you know. So it's just, everybody's going to do what they're going to do. You can't change them.
Absolutely.
And you've gotten some amazing photos. I need to throw that in there again. Some very amazing photos. It's unfortunate that in the Bigfoot community, we've built many great relationships, but then there's that other side of the vultures of the community that just want to pick and dissect and go out and pounce on people who have differing experiences or differing opinions. And
but a lot of them, they aren't having any experiences. So how are they going to judge anybody else, you know? And I don't allow hate to stay in my life. I refuse to, you know, and I just wish for them the experiences that I have, and then maybe they could understand a little bit more. But there's a lot of people out there that have experiences they have that I haven't, and I'm like, God, I'd love to have that happen to me, you know. So it's a two-way street. But there's never has to be what goes on. And I think it's very sad. I really and truly do. That was not how this was intended to be. The reason their people, the Sasquatch people, succeed in our scale is because they work under the law of Ra, the law of one. They work under collective consciousness. We don't. And that's why we
Right.
fail when they succeed. You know, look what we've done to our own people, to our own culture, to our own planet. We're the destroying ones. You know, we're the injured party here. We're the ones that are totally leveling everything.
Before we close, Paul Ayat, anything from you? Any other questions?
No questions, but this was fascinating, and thank you for having me on the show.
It was great to meet you.
Thank you, Robin.
Oh, it was great to meet you. Thank you.
Matt Slater in Quincy, Washington.
Yeah, I don't have any more questions. This was a great show. Thank you for being on.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me back.
Absolutely.
So, sorry to interrupt you, Matt. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
So, Robin, thank you so much. You've given us a lot to think about and a lot to look at, and thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us and your knowledge in this area. We so much appreciate it. You have got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
You're a hard person to chase, you know, so because you're always got something going on. I do want to mention that you know, you have that documentary on Amazon Prime that people can see. It's called Searching for Sasquatch, Bigfoot Mindspeak. You've got a website going on. You're speaking at various conferences. What do you got happening? What's upcoming for you?
Yeah, I started a website because I was working with people 24 hours a day, 8 days a week. And that's fine. I feel very blessed. You know, I mean, really, I have met the best people in my life through this industry and through the people and the researchers and the experiencers and the habituators. I would be lost without them. But I work with people all over the globe. And so when I went to work, I couldn't do that. And the people that needed me the most couldn't get me. I mean, I get researchers that call me out in the field and, you know, it's like a 911 message on my phone because they're in a situation and they need help out of it. Because I do a lot of remote work and, you know, astral projection and remote viewing and things. And so I couldn't do both. So I've been doing this for well over 50 years by myself. And I love it. I love the people that I've met. But it was either I turn it into a business to keep the power and the lights on, or I have to cut back and I can't help the volume of people that I have. And that's not acceptable. And so two friends of mine decided that this is what I was going to do, whether I wanted to or not. So I have a website now. It's www.paranormal-empowerment.com. And on there is a list of services. I do a lot more than what's on there. Anything from psychic readings to I teach energy work. I teach Mindspeak. I work with ET abductees and help with the ET cases and the UFO cases as far as trying to explain to people what's, you know, been going on. A lot of the psychic stuff goes on. You know, I'm an empath. I've got all these things. If you need something paranormal done, ask me. I'll let you know. I don't do tarot. I don't do numerology. I don't need to. I've got me. It's nothing against those things. The people that do it, I'm fascinated by. I just don't need them. So I don't use those per se myself. I have respect for anybody that does, but I don't do that. But, you know, let me know what you're looking for. I'm happy to try to accommodate you. And if I can't do it, I'll find you somebody that can. I've got a contact form on there, you know, if you want to book a session or anything, or you can find me on Facebook under Robin Haynes, Haynes. There is another account that says Robin L. Haynes. Please don't go to that one. You want Robin Haynes, Haynes, or you can email me at paranormalempowerment@gmail.com or rlyn.forestpeople@gmail.com. But I've got, I'm helping run the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference, and I'm also helping run the Alien UFO Conference in June in North Carolina in Spruce Pine. And so we have the one in Nebraska is the 26th and 27th. We've got some amazing people that are coming. I'll be there speaking. We've got Dave Scott, Rob Kreider's supposed to be there. I've got Blaine Tyler and his wife, Lisa, who are phenomenal. Duke Sullivan will be there. The cryptic guy, Christian will be there. And McLeod, I don't know why I had to think for a minute. He's one of my dearest friends on the planet. He's going to shoot me when he sees us. So he'll be there. We've got Alan and Ron, who do our movies every year. So we've got that movie there. We'll be playing Flash of Beauty, the paranormal. And Duke Sullivan is bringing a new movie that he has out now, Inevitably Finding Bigfoot. So he'll be doing that as well. We've got Steve Burke, who's an actor, and he's going to talk to us about a lot of things that have gone on in Nebraska with all this stuff, which is absolutely phenomenal. We have Jim Myers. We have, and more people. I mean, it's just going to be tremendous. We have a lot of fun. We have some great vendors. The tourism board we partnered with this year. And so it's even going to be a bigger event than what we normally do. We normally get a lot of people. And so we've got great vendors. It's in a new location in Grand Island at Fauner Park. It's April 26th and 27th. You can buy tickets online and get a package deal, or you can get them at the door. And it's just getting bigger and bigger every year. Like, it's just tremendous. Speakers are going to be staying at the Best Western near Fauner Park in Grand Island. So if anybody wants to meet or mingle or whatever, you know, we have that available. And again, I just hooked up with the Alien and UFO Expo and conference, and I'm helping over there as well. So yeah, I've been really busy. Between that, the website, I also do work for the Sasquatch. So they send me to various areas to do different things for them. And we have a major energy shift coming on. So I'll be working on that as well. So it's been really busy. It's been a crazy time. You know, they're coming up to the house at night and they're looking in the windows and they're knocking on the windows and they're, you know, running around like hooligans. So I stay pretty busy, and I work outside of even the website. I work with a lot of people individually, and I do that, you know, people all around the world. So it stays quite busy most of the time.
And William Lunsford, Stephen Hill, and I will be putting you to work in April when we go out in the field.
Always. I have more fun. I go with Daniel, and he puts me on video chat, and I have never not had a wonderful time. And we laugh so hard. And it's fantastic because I can get out in the field with them. And because I remote view, I'm like, okay, you got one coming in this way, you got one coming in that way. And I can kind of locate them or let them know where the hogs are at.
Yeah. We've done it in Arkansas. We've done it in Bainbridge Island, Washington. So I'm looking forward to getting down,
Daniel
down there in Arkansas again.
Yep. I love Daniel to pieces. I consider him one of my dearest friends. So yeah, we have a lot of fun. And I've got to get hold of William and Stephen to see if they want to come and do vendors over in Nebraska this year. They had talked about doing it, but I don't know if they've got time to do it this year or not. But yeah, so it's a busy time. March and April, if I can live through March and April and get into the middle of June, I'm good for the rest of the year. For that part. But it is picking up. People are, with this energy shift is coming up with people's abilities are starting to pop. But they don't know why, and they don't know how to use them, and they don't know how to control them. So that's when they get hold of people like myself, and I teach them how to use them and, you know, have a little bit of power to do what they need to do with them. And so it's getting busier all the time, but I love it. Like I said, I've met some of the best people in my life that I'm eternally grateful for through all of this.
Great. And Robin, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you also, everyone, for watching and being patient with our technical difficulties as we work through this, through these series of shows. So for myself, Daniel Becker in Anchorage, Alaska, for my partners, Matt Slater in Quincy, Washington.
Thank you.
And for our partner, Paul Ayat, also in Anchorage, Alaska. Have a good night, have a good morning, have a good day, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody, and God bless.